Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hello, Dr. Robert Kiltz. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting. I'm so grateful to have you here this wonderful afternoon. How are you?
Christina, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me on today.
Oh, you betcha. I mean, you took time out of your busy schedule right after surgery to come on here and talk about your latest book, Living Your Best Life, How to Think, Eat, and Connect Your Way to Better Flow. And boy, have I heard from a lot of our audience that we need that. What do people do in the beginning of the year? They start those resolutions. We're going to get healthy. And then before you know it, you're off that wagon and you're feeling bad, beating yourself up. And there's a way to have this be a lifestyle and not a drudgery. I think that's one thing when people think about getting into a better lifestyle, that has to be drudgery.
It really is important that we work on it every single day of our lives and not wait for some special time of year like New Year's and let's have a resolution, which most of us kind of toss them out the window in a week to a month at best. And so I write my books in order to help me in the things that I need and sharing ways for people to improve their lives each and every day.
Yeah. Now you work as a board certified OB/GYN for many years and reproductive endocrinologist. You help people with fertility. It's one of your specialties. What brought you into that line of work in particular?
Well, I kind of accidentally fell into the becoming a doctor, which I was just, so thrilled to become eventually. And after a tremendous amount of work and OB/GYN, delivering babies, what better thing can you do in life than help bring life into this world? And then I became a fertility specialist. And really that is my focus. I help so many individuals, couples dealing with losses or inability to conceive. And I do mostly advanced reproductive technologies.
Yeah. And, tell me, Dr. Kiltz, because I talked to a lot of my friends who had problems. A lot of them might have waited later in life, maybe late 30s, early 40s to have children. And it is a big problem for a lot of women to, get fertile and have babies, and they're going through a lot of turmoil. What causes so much infertility?
Well, I believe the same thing that causes infertility causes all of our diseases, which is essentially inflammation. And so not conceiving it or miscarrying is just another organ disease system. And so we think it's something separate and different, but just like heart disease and lung disease and skin diseases, they're all interrelated. And inflammation is due to stress in the mind. And stress is what stresses the body. And mostly, I believe it's our unhealthy diets and lifestyles that contribute to all of our diseases. And infertility is growing like everything else. We're seeing so much of it today. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely crazy. Now, it's interesting. I came across something online about keto, and you focused on ketogenic diet and stuff like that and lifestyle. And I was like, what is this? Because basically, I know that my big difficulty when it comes to eating is sugar. Sugar. You name it, cakes, cookies, all that good jazz. And I said, okay, no, something diet without sugar, and ketogenics came up. And I was like, okay, what is this? So it has started to help me really get off of the sugar, 2 months, zero sugar, and feeling a lot better. But what is it about that sugar? And tell us a little bit about ketogenics.
Well, I got into this also accidentally because I was mostly in mindfulness and meditation and yoga and prayer and visualization and positive attitude, which helped a lot of people. But then I learned about diet, that somehow what you eat matters, which was like crazy. I mean, can diet really matter that much? Well, I saw patients getting pregnant and delivering babies on things like keto and paleo and fasting. And over time, I integrated as my primary goal and directive is to talk about how keto, which is ketogenic lifestyle. And I have a book called Dr. Kiltz's Keto Lifestyle and the Fertile Feast, which is another focus of mine, is how we can reduce inflammation, which keto essentially is a high-fat, low-carb, no-carb diet, but you can actually be a vegan vegetarian and still eat sugar, by the way, and be in keto by learning some of the little tricks and finesses of the process. Because I eat sugar, but I only eat one time a day. And I personally am mostly carnivore, and I love ice cream and occasionally cake. But the one thing I've talked a lot about is that aren't we more valuable than our cars, our homes, our things? But we take care of them like they're really important, but we neglect the most important thing of the universe, which is a human being.
Yeah.
And we can do better at that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it was interesting for me. I started probably October of last year. I decided I was working out on my own after the lockdown shutdowns, and I started to enjoy the working out. And I've always liked going to the gym, but now I made it more of a focus. I decided to hire a personal trainer. And of course, the personal trainer was like, if we're going to work on your body, we got to work on your food. I was like, what do you eat? I'm like, do we really want to talk about what I eat? No. But anyway, it turns out a lot of sugar. So she just said, let's just cut back to one piece of chocolate a day or something like that. So we did that. I started to feel a little better, started to lose a little bit of weight. But what's interesting, Dr. Kiltz, is when I finally let go and just ate more of the, processed sugar, got rid of the processed food, I'm really starting to enjoy the really actual whole foods, like a tomato or a vegetable. They're starting to get a lot more yummy when you let go.
Well, that's where I found if you're consciously choosing, and if you just eliminate all the processed stuff, a lot of it will go away. But a lot of what I focused on, fasting is one of the most important, powerful things we can ever do. Fasting to me is, I've gone to one meal a day at night. Yeah. That one thing. I'm 65. I stopped exercising 10 years ago. Wow. And I pretty much went to one meal a day 10 years ago. I pretty much eat personally carnivore, which is a high-fat protein diet, very little sugar. But in my opinion, you can eat carbs, but you want to cook them well, because vegetables, by the way, are carbohydrates, which people don't understand. Yeah. But a lot of the stuff I share in my Fertile Feast book answers a lot of these, and also my ketogenic lifestyle book helps a lot. But it really is, when you consciously are doing the work, you're feeling better, you then get more motivated. And having a coach and a cheerleader is really important to do, because we've all been alone, and our loneliness can be debilitating to us mentally and physically. But with these devices, with YouTube and Instagram and all these things, but we can connect with people in ways I think we had forgotten or just never really realized that we can do that. And this is powerful, these methods.
Oh my gosh, they are. And you said something very important. See, you said I'm doing it like this, and I'm doing like one meal. But what I think is important that I found for myself is I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think when you start really paying attention, and as my coach says in the gym, it's really a mind-body connection that you build with your own body, that you begin to realize this is what my body needs. And there is cravings, like when you're on the sugar thing, oh my gosh, I want that sugar. But then when you go deeper than that, what is my body calling for? Like I found I was eating a lot of broccoli and I didn't want chocolate anymore. And she's like, yeah, boom, because you're getting your magnesium from broccoli.
and I think that's really important. And there are lots of different ways to do this. And that's really important. What fits for you doesn't fit for me. We can all mold into something, but we don't want to do just one way. And in Living Your Best Life, I talk a lot about we're all unique and different, and find the right way that fits for you. There are certain formulas, though, that I think work well for the human. I call us the human miracle machine, or the human Ferrari, the most valuable, expensive, and irreplaceable entity. And we need to learn from so many really great coaches out there how to do it better.
Yeah. Now talk to me about intermittent fasting, because I hear so much about it. And I don't think I do the intermittent fasting, but I find I'm eating less just naturally since I started eating.
That may be all you need to do to feel better, by the way, is eat less food, because we're consuming too much. And my opinion is we're consuming it too much and too frequently. We are more like a carnivore animal, which is an intermittent feaster. We intermittently eat. Fasting should be longer, in my opinion. We are built to get fat fast because we must survive the famines, which are historically been in our lifespan since the beginning of our human time. So we are highly addicted to sugar, because when it was around at the small time of the year, if you didn't eat as much as you can to get fat, you are dead over the winter. So if you look at many other animals, polar bears and black bears, and I think grizzly bears also, and many other mammals, they go long times without eating. Fat is the fuel for the human body, including the brain, in my opinion. And so by fasting, you reduce glucose levels. It's the glucose that is the damaging component of our body. So, it's kind of an interesting concept, which I did myself. Again, doesn't matter what you eat, as long as you eat it a lot less frequently, you will actually be much healthier than you ever imagined.
Yeah. So explain to me, intermittent fasting, that just mean you take you just skip a meal or something? What does that mean?
Well, the intermittently fasting means you have longer, it means you have longer gaps between meals. But personally, I call it intermittent feasting because to intermittently fast means you intermittently don't eat. Well, that's not what we do. We want to intermittently eat. So by stretching the time, see, the bowels fill up with food because once they get it through our mouth, we don't think about them unless we have a stomach ache or GERD or something else. But you need to really begin to look at your food and recognize that it must digest. Digestion takes 7 or more hours for the majority of the complex carbs we eat, which means the carbs are secreting sugar into our bloodstream far longer than we should, which ultimately causes something called glycation. Glycation is the single leading cause of all our diseases. Wow. It's sugar abnormally binding to particles, molecules, cells in our body and damaging them. Wow. And the largest single entity that gets damaged is something called the glycocalyx, which I call it the Teflon shield protector of our GI tract, of our blood vessels, of our epithelial coatings, of our peritoneal cavity. It's really a fascinating idea to look at because sugar is the cause of all disease, not fat. But how do we get fat? Well, simply, we eat too much carbs. And what most people don't recognize is that kale, cabbage are all ultimately simply sugar in our stomach because we think broccoli is different than white sugar. But in fact, it isn't. And that's the game changer. So if you're eating less frequently, and you cook the carbs well, add the fat, the carbs have enough time quickly to go to the liver to then be converted to fat because that then reduces your glucose levels and it also reduces your insulin levels. And ultimately, the combination of high glucose leads to high insulin. And I also believe there's no such thing as insulin resistance, which is another wacky concept. But as long as you have high sugar levels, you're going to have high insulin levels. When you lower your glucose levels, your insulin goes down. So many people that fast suddenly feel so much better. Their brain feels better. Their energy feels better. Their joints and their skin feels better. It really is quite amazing. And I've been doing it for 10 years. I just turned 65.
You look amazing. Yeah.
And I've never, and I don't exercise. I've never felt better in my life.
Yeah. And you've got all this energy. I can feel it when you came on board with me here. Yeah. Now, can I get something here? Because what I'm getting from you is that, because you said, okay, all the vegetables that people think are so much better than processed sugar, it turns to sugar. I'm guessing it's a little better than the processed foods, but what I'm thinking from what you're saying is that because if you eat less of it, let's say you don't have a salad and then you wait 7 to 8 hours to have another salad, instead of every 3 to 4 hours having more greens, you're still adding more sugar, and hence your body is having a problem processing it and making it into fat, and boom, right?
It's this. We're not grazing animals. We're more like a an intermittent eater, which is more like a carnivore. Now, I choose this because it's what I enjoy eating. But if you're a vegan or vegetarian, the real trick is to limit the variety. Spices and variety may not be as good for us. Be as boring as you can be, believe it or not.
Wow.
I always say boring is the best way to a baby. If you're out there in the amusement park all the day, putting all this stuff into your body, you may be eating something that your body is actually allergic to. And the only way you know it is because you get pain or diseases that ultimately inflammation is simply an allergy. The livestock industry actually is well aware of the deadly components and disease-causing plants that are just out in nature. But you and I don't realize that plants have a defense mechanism, which is poisonous chemicals that they make to disrupt the reproduction or the lifespan of an herbivore or an omnivore.
Wow.
And so, this idea that healthy foods that everyone tells us are, well, that's a marketing mechanism to get us to eat as much vegetables as you want. But my daughter would die to an avocado or a banana. I have so many patients that are allergic to food by simply going on an elimination diet. They can significantly change it up.
Yeah.
Now, for me, elimination was I went to ribeye steaks and nothing else. Quickly, everything went away. Bowel bleeding, arthritis, psoriasis, kidney stones, migraines.
Wow.
Bowel bleeding, gone. And again, I suffered for years, and colonoscopies and doctor visits and drugs until I did this simple diet that I didn't believe in.
Wow.
And for me, carnivore is the one side, but keto lifestyle to me, and Kiltz's keto lifestyle, one meal, I'll give you a little snack.
Okay.
Make sure you get a nap in, by the way. But because we don't rest enough. I take naps every day, 10 minutes. That's all you need.
Wow.
And I usually will do some meditation at the same time. Thank you, God, Lord, Creator, for my day. Thank you, Spirit, Nature. Thank you. How grateful I am for my life. And all of us have problems and troubles. This is just the nature of life. But when we begin to see them as actually the presence, the gifts of the Creator to give us maybe some little pieces of the puzzle that we can learn something a little bit better, that's where I think it is really so important for all of us. So faith, I always say faith, fasting, which will lead to your fertile life, because we don't need as much food as we eat, a lot less. And it's easy to do a lot less when you only do it one time a day.
Well, I love this. I'm not doing one time a day. I'm doing about 2 times a day now. But what I find is the portions are way less. I don't desire.
And again, I'm giving my there's lots of different ways. I would say 1 or 2 meals is best. Remember, if you're feeling lightheaded and low glucose, it's just a withdrawal symptom from sugar. Look at sugar, like all other addictive chemicals, are going to make you feel like you need it.
Yes.
But there is absolutely no requirement for any sugar in our diet or fiber or vegetables or fruit. Zero requirement.
Really? Okay? Even fiber? That's amazing.
Oh, even fiber. And if you'll actually begin to look at it, I call fiber nature's sandpaper and steel wool. When you begin to look at where all this data came from, you'll be flabbergasted. And if you really want a healthy Ferrari or whatever you want to call yourself, to me, we're lionesses and lions. And lions don't exercise. They don't eat vegetables. Now, there are some mammals, obviously, that do, not to say that we can't, plenty that do, not to say we can't, but when you realize the lifestyle we're living has been causing such detriment in our world, we've got to have some major changes. in this world, I believe.
Yeah.
The Sacred Cow by Diana Rogers, a really good book and a good read. Gary Taubes, Good Calories, Bad Calories. But there's so many great authors that are sharing ideas. Whether you're a vegan or a vegetarian or a carnivore, it doesn't matter. There's some things you can do to reduce inflammation in your body and live your best life, which you're doing already.
Yes. I love that. And Dr. Kiltz, you've given us so much food for thought, and it's perfect out there because I think people feel, and one thing I found for myself, when you do start living a better lifestyle, moving about, or as you say, just eating less or better food, you have less stress in your mind. I find that helps. Mind is also another aspect to work on.
It is. And when you're in pain, you're looking for comfort. And pain is so pervasive. And I suffered from pain. And when I did some of these changes, so yoga, Tai Chi, meditation, prayer, go for a walk in nature, get your camera and go, or paintings. And what I generally recommend is artwork. You're an artist. So all of us are artists. And the more we get out our canvas or clay or just a pen and pencil to write poetry, you have to make mistakes in order to learn to do better. That's the nature of all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. You've given us so much food for thought, and I know people are going to be excited. They're going to get their best life by getting your book, Living Your Best Life. Where can they do that, and where can they find out more about you?
Well, drrobertkiltz.com or drkiltz.com. I have another website called Mind, Body, Smile, or cnyfertility.com. But check out on Amazon. A lot of our books are there. Dr. Kiltz, Kiltz. You might find some really helpful stuff for you.
Dr. Robert Kiltz, I thank you so much for such an informative day. You've given me so much food, and you've empowered all of us so that we could live our best life. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for what you're doing, and keep doing it. We love you.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.